This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to I'll Have Another podcast with Lindsay Hine. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'm so grateful you're here today. Hey, I have 14-week half marathon training plans and 18-week marathon training plans on my website, lindsayhine.com. There is a beginner, intermediate, and advanced half marathon plan. So you've got 4 options. And then for the marathon, we have beginner, intermediate, and advanced. When you go to lindsayhine.com, it'll tell you what mileage you need to be at before you get started on these training plans. They are very detailed and comprehensive. There are videos with pre-run and post-run strength and stretching routines, as well as a strength routine I recommend you do twice a week. It's the bare minimum that I think everybody should do. And then each plan also has a pace chart so that if you have a goal time, say your goal time is to break 4 hours in the marathon, it will give you paces for what you should be hitting your tempo runs and mile repeats and easy runs and marathon pace runs at. I always tell people, though, run those based on effort. Don't try to be glued to a pace. Run based on effort, and you will eventually get to that goal. You can grab a plan at lindsayhine.com. The half marathon plans are $35. The marathon plans are $45, and I believe they are worth every penny. Go check them out. All right, listen, today you're listening to episode 355, and my guest is Chari Hawkins. She is a heptathlete. Really excited to have an athlete that is a runner in the world of track and field, but doing all kinds of other events as well. The heptathlete has 7 events in their competition: hurdles, high jump, shot put, 200-meter run, long jump, javelin, and 800 meters. You end everything with the 800, which is just crazy. Chari explains all of that to us in this conversation and how she got into the heptathlon. She went to Utah State University. She's a 2-time USA bronze medalist. She competed in Doha in 2019 for Team USA. And she has a lot of things to say about mental health and anxiety and how she has worked really hard to overcome race day anxiety, race week anxiety. In fact, you're going to hear all about it in this episode. If you're not already following her, she has like a crazy amount of followers on Instagram, _Chari, Chari Hawkins over there. She talks a little bit about how she grew her social media as well and why that was so important to her as an athlete in the heptathlon with sponsorships and whatnot. All right, friends, thanks for being here. Leave us a quick rating and review. We are giving away a pair of Gooder sunglasses, 1 pair per month for all the new ratings and reviews each month. So at the end of January, we will look at all of those ratings and reviews and pick a winner. If you leave us one, send my production assistant, Emma at sandyboyproductions.com, a quick email and let us know you left a review. Take a screenshot and just send it to her, and we will make sure we get you entered to win. All right, friends, this podcast is part of the Sandy Boy Productions podcast network. We'd love it if you checked out our other shows. We have a brand new website, sandyboyproductions.com. Go check it out. Okay, enjoy my conversation with Chari Hawkins. All right. Well, today on I'll Have Another, we have Chari Hawkins on the show. Welcome to the show, Chari.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. It's going to be really fun.
I am so excited as well. We are interviewing our first heptathlete on the podcast. I'm so excited to learn more about track and field. So thanks for being the first one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's actually really funny because I'm listening to my voice right now as I talk, and it's like a little hoarse. It kind of almost looks like I'm sick, but actually just the last 2 days have been wild. I think it was a 6-hour day and an 8-hour day on the track, and so chaotic in the sun all day, which you love it. But today, Wednesdays are my day off. So Mondays and Tuesdays, I go really hard in the paint. Today's Wednesday. So I have my off day, and I'm like listening to my voice as I talk to you. And I'm like, oh, you sound like you need to go stop smoking a pack a day.
Go drink some hot tea.
It's been all the workouts. So it's good.
Okay, I know that you went to Utah State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you live in Utah though?
No, I live in San Diego. Yeah, so just with, I mean, obviously with track and field, like the warm weather training is essential. And then my coach is actually the head coach at San Diego State University. Her name's Sheila Burrell, and she's a two-time Olympic heptathlete. So she is like, she's incredible, and I'm so lucky to have her as my coach for sure.
Oh, that's so awesome. I was going to ask you about her. How'd you find her as a coach and how did that relationship develop?
So there's actually like a lot of drama. Like it's so interesting. Like track and field is so funny because it seems like such a straight up sport, but there really is like so much drama. And I think like that's, I think that's a story for like a memoir in the future. But dramatic events occurred and I was left without a coach already moving to San Diego. And I went to where was it? It was in Canada, the Pan American Cup, which is like the Canadian Championships, to represent Team USA there. And while I was there, they will bring Team USA coaches that kind of just like help guide you, even though, they're not really your coach. They just help guide and all that. And I became friends with one of them named Gwen, and she was like the coolest girl, but she went to college with Sheila Burrell. And she said, you know what? I told her my story. This is what happened. I no longer have a coach to train with. And she said, you know who I think you need to train with, who would just do wonders for you, is Sheila Burrell. She's absolutely phenomenal. And I was like, yes, please, because Utah State and San Diego State are in the same conference. So I've always heard of her before, but she is the most intimidating human being in the entire world. Like, not in real life. When you get to know her, she's that person. You know how there's always the person that's so cool that you just hope they like you.
Oh, yeah.
You hope you're cool because they're well, that's who she is. She's just so chill, so cool, so kind, such a good person. But she's really intense at meets. Like she's very like down to business. I mean, she's a two-time Olympian, and it's intimidating, especially to just college athletes. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I've always been so scared of her. She's gonna be so mean. I got on the phone with her to talk to her, and she was just like, oh my gosh, like, hey, how are you? Just like a regular person. I was like, oh, like, yeah. And she said, I'd love to have you come out, and would you be okay? I know you're already in San Diego. Like if we just did like a little week trial, how does that sound to you? And she was like, and I was like, oh yeah. And I got there. She's taught me so much. I've already been in the game at this point, like 10 to 12 years at this point in the track and field world. And we're talking like since I was in, high school, junior high, all that. But she taught me more in these last 3 or 4 years that we've been together than anyone I've ever taught. And this podcast isn't about her, and I know that, but I'm just obsessed with her. So I went on this tangent.
I love that you talk about her so much. I love hearing about people's coaches and their relationship and how that came about. So thank you for sharing that. But tell us about Utah State. Like when did you first start doing actual heptathlon?
At Utah State. So when I'm born and raised in Rexburg, Idaho, and it's a smaller state when it comes to the track and field world. And so it's not quite as competitive. So I did win state in 3 different events, in the hurdles, the high jump, and the long jump. Wow. And those are really big events in the heptathlon. So I was recruited for the heptathlon out of high school, and I went to Utah State.
Wow. Hurdles, long jump, and
high jump. Mm-hmm.
And high jump. Okay, tell me what are you high jumping to win state in Idaho in high school?
I think so. I believe that I jumped 5'6" in high school. Yes, that's it. Yes, I jumped 5'6" in high school to win state. But I won state I think 3 times in high school, and I think I won it at 5'4" or 5'4" one year and 5'3" one year. So. Which I know that's weird. It just kind of depends on where they start onto how high you end up going. So it usually goes up by 2 inches. So if they start at 4'9", then it's going to be odd numbers. If they start at 5'1", but that is definitely so different from even now. I look back at even now high school athletes.
What are they doing now?
I mean, there are athletes going absolutely insane. They're jumping 5'10", they're jumping 6 feet, they're jumping 6'2". Incredible. And so that is wild. But that's also why I'm not an open high jumper. I'm just a heptathlete, because I was not that good, but that's okay. They always say, jack of all trades. That's the heptathlon saying. Actually, I would say the heptathlon saying is first to show, last to go. Because we're just there all day. All the time.
Okay, so let's run down the events for the listeners. We had hurdles, long jump, high jump. I know there's shot put, 800. What am I missing? Javelin.
You're missing the 200 as well. So basically what it is there's 7 events over the span of 2 days. So in day 1, we have 4 events. We go hurdles, high jump, shot put, and we end the day with a 200-meter run. So that's a really high intensity level day, but it's not anything too insane. It just is really crazy on your nervous system. So you go home and you just try to rest as much as possible. You wake up, you feel like you got hit by a bus because your muscles are just sore and achy and all that good stuff. But then you come back and you start with the long jump, you do the javelin, and then you finish off with the 800-meter run.
Man, finishing off with the 800 just seems really intense. That is such a hard event.
Yeah, I used to wish that we started with the 800, because I know people would pace their events a lot smarter if that happened. And that was just the lazy person in me being like, I don't want to give it all I have because the 800 hurts so bad. But now looking back into it, I mean, it is nice to be able to give your whole effort to something. So when it comes down to all the events, you really don't have to feel like you need to hold back to save your energy for the next one. So it is important to end it with the 800 so that you can actually, give your all with it. But I guess 800 is such a nerve-wracking event, because I always like to say you're basically running until you have the flu. So you're going to be sick, it's going to hurt, but you don't know if you're going to get a good time. So you're always like, oh no, it's so nerve-wracking. But I think the more you do it, the more you accept it, the more you understand it, and the more you start to enjoy it. So it's definitely a process.
So how have you figured out over the years to pace yourself through the event so that you aren't like giving it every single thing on that third event?
My coach, Sheila, was a huge part of that, because she would liken my attitude when she's like, when you are the way that you are, because I am a very hyperactive soul. I'm very like in your face, but like more like in my own face. Like I'm really like up on energy and like, let's go, and really high intensity, which I love. I call it mania. I'm very manic when it comes to, like joy and like expression and excitement, but that can be really exhausting in a heptathlon. So my coach likes to have me bring it inside. So she says, take everything that you have and keep it to yourself, because all you're doing is you're releasing your energy and you're giving other people energy. So bring it to yourself so that way you can recharge your own battery. And so inside, I'm super excited. I'm really happy to be there, but it does look like I'm very calm, cool, collected on the outside. And that's mostly because we're trying to not get this roller coaster of emotions, because getting insanely intense and ready for an event, and then having to drop off and calm down, and then get ready and intense for an event, and then drop off and calm down. And that really does wreak havoc on your nervous system and your energy system. And so it's really just about trying to stay as level as possible so that you're not wasting any unnecessary energy.
Yeah, I mean, that's really great advice for anything you're pursuing athletically, I think. Most people listening, I would maybe beg to say that nobody listening is doing the heptathlon, but like we can really waste a lot of energy before a marathon or a 5K or whatever it is doing that roller coaster.
Yeah, I think that it is a really big challenge to get mentally focused and to do not succumb to the roller coaster mentally. And that's been something that I have worked on for a long time. And I feel like I finally figured out in 2019. And then I'm on the process of like, really nailing it down, because it doesn't always look like one thing, right? It's just about having a ton of different tools in your tool belt that you can use when certain things come up.
Where do you like look for those tools? Like, are you reading books? Are you listening to podcasts? Like, how are you developing that self-growth?
I think the most wonderful thing about my career is the fact that I've been doing it for so long. And I moved to England for a year and was able to train with some of the best coaches in the world. They gave me, tools there. When I was at Utah State, there were some amazing coaches there that were giving me little tools. My coach now has given me tools. I've worked with many different sports psychologists, and each of them have given me tools. I've read books. I've listened to podcasts, and just through my own experiences of trying things. It basically just like my entire career is basically one big primary research project of how to mentally get through. I suffered from insane performance anxiety, and I'm talking, I tried to tear my own Achilles before one of my competitions, as I tried it with my whole heart, and jumped up and down on it, and I finally like woke up from it, like, because I was in like this anxiety induced days where I was really having a panic attack, and I was like, dude, you need to chill, because a torn Achilles is no joke. Like, what are you doing? And it was like, okay, low point. Like, I had to just like kind of, snap out of it. But in the heptathlon, I would get so nervous that for my entire career until 2019, I had a panic attack every single competition, and would panic, I wouldn't say a full panic attack, but panic up to the entire week up to the competition. I was just sick to my stomach. I do not know how I still continue to compete. I think it was just because I was so interested in how am I going to freaking figure this out? Like, I can do it. I know I can do it. And, trial and error, learning from coaches, from sports psychologists, from mental trainers, from self-help, X, Y, and Z. Like, I've definitely learned a lot of things.
Wow, that is so wild. Like, that you were experiencing that extreme anxiety and competing at those very high levels. Was there like a certain therapist that like walked you off the cliff of like, you can't continue to live like this every single time you have a competition?
I was the therapist that did that, because in 2019 indoor championships, I was in a midst of a full-blown panic attack, and I remember there were people that were like coming up to me being like, "Are you okay?" And it was so embarrassing because I was not okay, but I was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm good," and I like couldn't breathe. Like, it felt like I was breathing through a straw, and I was like, "I'm okay," and it was making me like panic and choke, and I ended up pulling my hamstring just because my body tightened up so much. And it was absolutely such a nightmare, because my whole family had flown all the way to New York to be at this competition where I was in like a smooth second place going into long jump, which is one of my best events. And then I just had the 800 left. It wasn't a big deal, but my body just like was not responding, and my brain was like a daze, and it was just a hot mess nightmare. And when I pulled my hamstring, they were like, you can't, like, we're not letting you run the 800. Like, it's not worth it. Like, get healthy for outdoor. And I was like, okay. And then I was just there's something about, it's probably a lot how people feel about marathon running. And if you run a marathon, and I've never run a marathon, so let me not try to sit here and be like, let me teach you how to run a marathon. But if you run a marathon and you finish, even if you didn't really get the time that you wanted, there's still like, you're kind of like, yeah, like maybe I didn't push it this mile, or I kind of relaxed it this mile and I could have done better. However, you're still satisfied with the fact that you finished whereas if you panic in the middle of it and then you stop with, 5 miles to go, even if you stop with 10 miles to go, there's something, probably, again, I've never run one, but this is how I would liken it. I would say that if it were me, like I would just beat myself up. Why wouldn't I finish? Why didn't I finish? Why didn't I finish? That's kind of how not finishing a heptathlon feels. It is, even if you don't do a good job, if you finish, you kind of get over it. But if you don't finish, it kind of eats you away for a long time. And the fact that it wasn't even, I mean, I know I pulled my hamstring, so you had to come out, but I would not have pulled my hamstring if my body wasn't so tight, if I wouldn't have freaked out, stressed out, all that kind of stuff. Like I could have controlled that. So I remember looking my parents in the eye, being so devastated and letting them know. I looked them in the eye and I said, look at me. And they looked at me. That I will never have this happen to me again. I'm going to go home and I'm going to figure this out. And there were a lot of things that I did, to be fair, but I think the biggest thing that I did, and I share this a lot on my social media because I think mental health is so important. And I was asking myself, why is this happening? And not only was I asking myself, I was asking every single person I had ever come in contact with. Do you ever get anxiety? Why do you get anxiety? Why do you feel this way? Why? And somebody one time answered, I don't remember who it was, but I said, do you ever get anxiety? And he was like, who was it? But he was like, yes, I get anxiety. And I was like, why? And he said, I think it's because I assume that if I'm good at my job, then I'm worthy. And it was just this like crazy, like, oh my gosh, that's it. I have decided that if I compete well, I am worthy. I'm worthy. And I'm not just talking like I'm worthy as an athlete. No. Like I didn't just waste my time training for all this time because I did good. So it wasn't a waste of time. I am now a good friend. I'm a good, partner. I'm a good daughter. I'm a good person because I did good. So people are going to be inspired by me just because I did good. And there's no other thing that I could possibly do that's going to be doing that. And it was just this lightning strike in my head and in my chest. And I said, that is so true. So I went home, I wrote down, if I compete well, what does that mean? And then if I compete poorly, what does that mean? And I looked through and I really started, like tearing up and going through and just, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I put so much of my value as a human being on my performance. And if your value as a human being is put on your performance, of course you're going to freak out. And because if you don't do well, you literally just may as well just not even go home. You have no right to be alive or right to be a human if you're not competing at your best. And what an insane thought. But it was what my subconscious was thinking. So I had to really unlearn, do a lot of things that were like, I'm worthy just because I get to be worthy, and I'm a human being. And so I am allowed to be treated humanely. And my goal, my biggest breakthrough was I had a heptathlon and I told myself it was the biggest heptathlon I'd ever competed in. And I told myself, no matter what happens, I will have fun because I get to enjoy what I'm doing. Just because I'm a human being, I get to enjoy what I'm doing. So no matter what happens. So in high school, I jumped, about 5'6". I think I jumped 5'2" at this meet. So I was like, I haven't done this poorly since actual high school. So it was the worst thing ever. I honest to goodness couldn't believe it. But I promised myself, no matter what, I will smile and I'll have fun, even if I don't feel like I'm having fun. So I jumped. I walked over to my parents and I was like, all right, here's your chance to not be upset. Because if you were gonna be on automatic, you would have started sobbing, right? But I was like, nope, you're not upset. You're excited because you have a lot to learn. So I went to my parents. I was like, well, back to the drawing board, you know what I mean? And I just like laughed and smiled. And like my parents were surrounded by a ton of people because it was at Gotsis, which a lot of people here aren't going to know what that is, but it's a huge competition for the heptathlon and it's in Austria.
Oh, wow.
So we flew all the way to Austria and it is a really big deal. So the entire stadium is always completely full of people. So my parents were surrounded by people, and I said that back to the drawing board, and everybody just like started laughing, and everybody like clapped for me, and because it was just like a nice, and it like lightened the mood a little bit, I think, for everybody. So then I went back to the girls, and when somebody does really bad in an event, it's almost like awkward because you don't know how they're going to respond. So you're kind of just like quiet. So then I went back and I said, I haven't jumped that bad since high school. Isn't that fun? And like, maybe we'll just throw like 19 meters further in the shot put. And everybody like laughed. And then I remember there was a heptathlete who at the time I was just like obsessed with her. I still am. She's so adorable. But I was like, oh my gosh, shell shocked when I saw her. And she came up to me and she was like, I really like your attitude.
Aww.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like that was so great. And it brought me up, and it made me realize like, wow, your value isn't, she's not talking to you because you just jumped higher than her, right? She's talking to you because you acted in a humble like manner, and you were positive in a negative circumstance, and you had X, Y, and Z. And my subconscious was like, oh, okay, cool. So we moved forward, shot put, terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I did the exactly the same thing. And then I think the 200 actually went okay, but my score was just not great at the first. Day 2, I said, same thing. No pressure, just having fun. And something happened in day 2 where like it really clicked, and I had a personal best day 2, no stress. PR'd in almost every event of day 2, and it was just like a blast. I had so much. It was by far the most fun I've ever had in heptathlon. And even before the 800, I just was like, no matter what happens, like everything's good and you're great and that's okay. And it was just, sorry, again, I just talked for like 40 minutes. Is the podcast over now? Jeez Louise.
You're good.
But that's the story of how I overcame my anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, we just got all the way into it. So yeah, that was it.
No, I think that's so great too. And I think that it's like that constant self-awareness, right? Like, am I dipping back into that? Am I falling back into those patterns, and like constantly reminding yourself where you need to go? Hey everybody. Okay, the Donna Marathon weekend is coming up. It is so soon. It is in 1, 2, 3 weeks. I am so excited to go down to Jacksonville, Florida. We do this race every year. We were really sad to miss it the past year. I did the virtual option though, which was also really fun. The Donna Marathon weekend supports the Donna Foundation, which helps people who are walking through a breast cancer diagnosis, both financially and also emotionally. They have a care line that people can call. They also fund groundbreaking research, just a wonderful organization. And when you run the race, you are directly supporting the foundation. It is a great time of year to head down to a beautiful destination. The race starts and finishes on the beach. Don't worry, you don't run on the sand though. You guys can use the code Lindsay10 for 10% off any of your registration fees. There's a 5K on Saturday the 5th and a half marathon and a marathon on Sunday the 6th, as well as a kids mile race on that Saturday, and they have relay options as well. We are bringing our whole family down there, and our kids are going to do the mile. I'm really excited about that. Probably way too excited about it, honestly. Jacksonville is just amazing. It has 250 days of sunshine a year, and you can learn more about planning your trip for the whole weekend when you go to visitjacksonville.com. They have the largest urban park in the nation with 80,000 acres of parks, including 7 state parks, 2 national parks, a national preserve, and 400 city parks, and gardens and an arboretum. This is one of my favorite places to visit. So to learn more about Jacksonville, go to visitjacksonville.com. And to learn more about the Donna Marathon weekend, go to breastcancermarathon.com. Use that code Lindsay10 for 10% off your registration. Also, one more thing, we are having a meetup on that Saturday. So for anybody coming, I have to get the detail of where exactly the meetup is going to be. figured out, but that will be posted on my social media. My Instagram's Lindsay Hine 626, as well as our Facebook group. I'll have another podcast. If you aren't already in that group, go join it. Okay, this is officially the longest break ever. Thank you for listening. Come run with us in Jacksonville and enjoy the rest of my conversation with Chari Hawkins. Tell us about the World Championships, because when you mentioned the biggest race, I thought, oh, she's surely going to talk about when she went to Doha and was on the World Championship team. But clearly, this other heptathlon race is a big deal too.
Yeah, so this GOTS meet was actually before World Championships. So I hadn't, at this point, it was the biggest meet I've ever been to, because I hadn't been to Worlds yet. I hadn't qualified yet. So then I had USAs. I took bronze at USAs, and so I qualified for World Championships. And 5 days before World Championships, honestly, I had never been so locked in physically or mentally. I really thought I was going to come home with a medal at World Championships, because we had so long. I think we had something like 10 weeks to prepare for World Championships. It was like crazy. So I had like almost 2 full training cycles to really train, and I was so locked in. And 5 days before the competition, I shattered my ankle.
Oh, good Lord.
But I was so locked in mentally that my coach did not think I was going to be going. Like my ankle was the size of a softball, and I could not even walk. But I told her, I was like, oh, I'm fine. Like I promise. Like, look, I'm fine. And she was like, all right. Like, and I was like, I'm not going to miss my first chance to go to World Championships. There's a zero. This leg could be literally broken and I would go. So absolutely not. We're going. And, I got in, honestly. I was invited 24th out of 24. So it was like a very by the skin of our teeth type of, and so I was like, yeah, like I'm not missing this opportunity, like absolutely not. And I go, and honestly, my brain was just so locked in, and so, hey, you have nothing to lose here because your ankle's broken, but I'm not tell one person my ankle was broken, because my goal was, in my mind, I was like, I'm already doing so good. Like I could still medal. And then if I could tell people after the fact, like, and I did not have broken ankle. That was like my goal over time. So I was like in my mind, so focused. And I ended up actually doing pretty decent, considering, I went in 24th. I came out 12th. To be honest, my day 2 was a little, but it was so fun. Like it really was. It was a blast. It made me realize, like, oh, like you belong here. Like, like you deserve to be here. You can do it. So it was a really fun experience, and I liked it, and it was cool.
Yeah. I mean, do you think everybody has that like moment where they realize they belong,
Yeah, I mean, I think having imposter syndrome is hard.
Yeah.
I had it because I got invited, 24th. And so there was this vibe of, like, I'm just going to be, I really don't want to be like the person that nobody remembers because they just didn't even like, they don't show them. They don't like, because like nobody cares about them because like, why are you even here? You know what I mean? But, that was like the moment where I was like, oh, okay, like I can do that. And I hate self-doubt. Isn't that just like the worst?
The worst thing?
I would so much rather have other people doubt me than have myself doubt me.
And I hate that things that other people say, even if it's not about you, can like create self-doubt. Like you have to like actively try to push that out.
The worst. Seriously, the worst. I have never understood people who feel like they need to knock people off their high horse. Aren't you so thrilled that somebody's on their high horse?
Yeah,
like,
go
and they,
you.
Like, love themselves and they're so excited. Like I just am like, oh, like how'd you get up there? Like
bring me with you.
That is so the vibe. And you know what, everyone listening, like let this be your vibe of 2022, because I literally have never understood that, and I've also never understood wanting to plant a seed of doubt in someone's mind or cause someone shame. Like it doesn't make any sense. any self-doubt that you place on other people, you're actually placing on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to ask someone how they got on their high horse and want to get there, that's actually that's your own self-confidence. That's not even trying to knock them off their high horse. It's like, oh, like you're up there and I don't think I can get up there. So let me do my best to justify not being up there. But instead, like, wouldn't it light you up so much more to be like, okay, like I can get up there, because that's what self-belief is. And it's the same thing with track and field. I mean, people constantly are always like, oh, it's really nice that you have access to like all of these facilities, and like you have access to this and that and this and that and the best coaches and this and that. And I'm like, I don't think you guys understand that I created every single thing that I have. Funny, this is actually a wonderful story. But my parents are maybe the most supportive people in my life. But they told me straight up when I graduated college, we went to Vegas. I think we went to Vegas because I think I was like stressed or something. So they took me to Vegas, and we like love going to Vegas shows and like all that kind of stuff. It's like so fun for us, me and my mom and my dad. And we were eating, and I was letting them know that I was going to train professionally, and I was going to move to California and train in Santa Barbara at I had found a facility that I was going to train at, and they were like, no. No. And I was like, no. And they were like, Chari, like, we love you, but like we can't afford to send you there, and like you don't have a job, and you're not going to be able to get a job there because you're going to have to be training. Like you can't do that. And I remember being like, what are you saying? Like, you guys love my sports. Like, you guys are like sport fiends, which they so are. I'm like, I thought you guys would be so excited that I was still training. And they were just like, it's time to like move on. It's time to move on. And I was like, no, it's not. It's not time to move on. And by then, like, I mean, with social media, I think I had 400 followers on social media. They were like all just like my friends and family. And that was it. Like, it's not like I had like something to fall back on or potential to have to grow. I was going to have to go there and pay to go. So I had to go and pay my way. It's not like I got like this free invitation, like all of this kind of stuff. And I got there. I got like a job as a nanny, which, by the way, if you are a runner right now and you're trying to be a professional runner, nannying is the best job to have because it pays pretty well. It paid all of my bills. And so, yeah, that's a really good option if you are a runner and you're wanting to, get into the job world and get some money. That's by far the best one. But I had a job, I had to train, and I had to really build myself up like from the ground. So I don't want people to think like, oh, just because, you have this, that's how you can do all of this. It's like, no, understand that everything I have, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over me really building it.
When did you first get sponsorships?
So as a heptathlete, it's not as exciting. I mean, like you said, like nobody here really knows what the heptathlon was until they met me, right? And so it's not really something that you're going to get sponsorships from. So I remember it was 2016, and I was working, and I was talking to my then boyfriend, now husband, and I was telling him, because he was living in Denver and I was living in Santa Barbara, and we were on the phone, and I just told him, I was like, if I'm going to get any sort of sponsorships, like I'm going to need to start growing my social media. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the only way that I'm going to get sponsored in this world. And the way that my social media started is I started just doing like, video journals where, it was easier to do my journal there because our coach wanted us to write journals, and it was easier to do that than it was to, write an actual journal for me. So I'd put the video, and then I would say, today's cue was this. It really helped me. Da, 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 da. And those videos just started doing really, really well. And my videos it was like right where Instagram went from putting, likes from videos to views. Like they made them like, this is how many people you can see that viewed your videos. And I only had maybe 700 followers at this time. I had like slowly started growing my following, and I only had like 700 followers at this time. But I was noticing that all like my photos would get, you know, like 100 likes, but then my videos would get like 6,000 views. And I was like, I don't have 6,000 followers. So I was like noticing my videos were getting exposed a lot more. So I started, you know, posting more videos and posting more videos, and it started really happening for me. And then the first thing that helped me was at the Olympic trials, I hit my own head with the javelin. And the javelin like went and like it went super viral. And it went viral in a bad way. It was the best. Oh, it wasn't the best. There was a video that reposted it, and it said it was like there were actually so many articles that came out, and it was like when the javelin flies nicely, it's like poetry in motion. When something goes wrong, dog's breakfast. I was like, geez. And then there was a video that posted about it and was just like when javelin goes wrong, and everybody below it was just like, what a waste of talent. Like, this girl is so uncoordinated. Like, oh my, choked at the Olympic trials. That sucks. Like, all this stuff. But what I decided to do is instead of like going back and being like, hey, like you're stupid. I decided to agree with all of them. I was like, I know, let's find her and send her on fire. But I was clearly tagged in the video, so it was obviously me. And so then like after that, like everybody would respond and just be like, oh my gosh, you're so like, that is so funny. Like, da 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 da. And then like my following, I think I ended up going from like 700 to like, 2,000, which not a ton, but like, I think like back then it was like, oh wow, like I really grew. And I made my first, in the heptathlon, you can make teams a couple different ways. You can make teams going to world championships, and then you can make teams going to like other sort of like the Thorpe Cup or the Pan Am Cup, like that kind of stuff, like cup games. And so I made my first Thorpe Cup team. So I posted a picture of me going like this in my Team USA outfit. And if you're listening and not watching, this means I'm putting my hands on my hips and just like looking into the camera, like all intense. And I posted it right. I was like, oh, I'll post this before, and I'll be like, taking off for Germany, like, see you soon, Germany, kind of a thing. First Team USA. And I was like, first team, blah, blah, blah. And I landed. And at that time, my pictures, like the most my pictures had ever gotten in terms of likes was maybe like on a really good day, like 500 or like 600. And I was like, whoa, 600 likes, And I landed, and I just like pulled up my social media, and it was like going wild. And that photo had over 10,000 likes, and I had gotten over 10,000 followers.
Did somebody big share it, or what happened?
It just, that was like when the Explore page was there. And so it had just gotten put on the Explore page and just blown up. Like, it was just the most random. I could not believe it. So that actually happened like a couple times where like I post a picture and it would just blow up, and I post a picture, blow up. And so I ended up getting like, a tiny little following that really got my foot a little bit in the door. But really what people loved were those video logs that I continued to do. So it was really fun.
I love that. That's so good. What does your husband think of all this? Like, what are his thoughts on your social media stuff? Because if you guys are listening, you don't follow Chari, she's got like 360,000 followers or something like that.
It's so crazy because he was the person that I first called and said, if I want to get sponsored, I need to grow my social media. And something about him is he is a double bachelor in business and one in marketing, and then he also has his master's in marketing and business. So he is a really smart person when it comes to marketing. And so, I mean, he's been really instrumental in helping me grow a lot. He's been like, make sure that you're using all these hashtags, like blah, 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 when it was like back in the day. And now it's just like he'll be like, okay, we need to go get more content. So I mean, I won't say he's my social media manager, but like at the same time he kind of is. So he's on board for sure.
All right, friends, a quick break here to thank Previnex for supporting this podcast. I want to let you know their Neurify Plus protein powder is my go-to protein supplement. I drink it every day. We make smoothies with it with our kids. It's delicious. It is plant-based, vegan, has tons of micronutrients in it, and has a great balance of protein, fat, and carbs. I can't say enough about their protein powder. The other product I really want to tell you about is the Joint Health Supplement. It's called the Joint Health Plus, and that supports joint comfort and flexibility. It is clinically proven to offer the most comprehensive and complete joint protection and relief on the market. I cannot tell you how many people have reached out to me and said they have seen crazy results from taking this product. I take it every day. My joints feel great. I'm not getting any younger. I highly recommend the product. And they were out of stock for a while because it's so popular, and they just got it back in. So don't sleep on this. Go to Previnex.com, use the code ANOTHER, and that will get you 15% off your first order. That's Previnex.com, use the code ANOTHER, and that will get you 15% off your first order. All right, friends, back to the show. Okay, so I do want to get to the this past year. Obviously, you were wanting to make the Olympic team, and that didn't happen for you. I know it's awful, but like I want to hear about like you overcoming that and like how like we walked through the like focus shift, right? Of like I was having these panic attacks, working through that. Now you have this other big obstacle, like this was supposed to happen for you. It should have happened for you, right? How did you process that? And like, where are you now emotionally healing wise?
For sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, you guys should know that it's like funny because the minute I didn't make the team, I had my mental coach quit and told me they were very disappointed in me.
What?
I got dropped by every sponsor except two, that I had. Like like literally, like that's what happens when you don't make the Olympics. Even if you made Team USA, even with social media following, like sometimes you have to understand that, like sometimes people just want the story, remember? And people wanted the Olympic story. They didn't get it from me. So they left. But what I had to do is I had to first just let myself be in pain. That is so important. It is so important to let yourself be in pain. You guys could have licked any surface off of my entire house because it was so clean, because I spent an entire week just every day just cleaning out every drawer I ever had and just letting myself cry during the process. Like letting myself cry, letting myself watch TV and watch music, listen to music and listen to podcasts, but just like be upset. I wasn't in fix it mode right away. And I knew that I needed to not be in fix it mode right away. I knew that this was like really sad. And there was part of me that had to keep telling myself, so that I didn't, actually hurt myself or do something drastic. I had to continue to tell myself, like, this is temporary. This is temporary. This is temporary. This is temporary. And I knew that. I knew it was temporary, but it didn't feel temporary. It felt like this was going to be forever. But I let myself feel sad. That's number one. Let yourself freaking be sad, because life is sad. Sometimes things happen, but life is also so happy. So you just got to remember, ow, this hurt. So I would say I had like the physical pain of, ow, this hurt, probably from June to August, beginning of August, maybe. And then it started, to get a little better. I would say September is when I started getting like a little bit more underneath me. But in terms of like healing, all I could do was just like do my best and let myself hurt and still, be a human being and like still like shower and still, do all that kind of stuff. And it's really nice to have like a good support system, because I did have people, checking in on me and making sure everything was good. And I watched about every Netflix show you could ever. Sometimes you need to hibernate just a little bit.
Yep.
And then, I think the biggest thing was I went to Hawaii, and it was so nice to be in a new location that just like allowed you to like take in beauty and take in like life and see like, oh wow, like life is bigger than track. So I think like the next thing is take yourself, once you've let yourself, feel it, I would say take yourself out of it and something beautiful that doesn't have to do with track. Because it would have been horrible had I done something that was really amazing but track focused, like maybe like gone to like an incredible track competition that was like, wow, track is so fun and great. Like that would have made me really sad, right? So I would say get yourself away, but like in a positive way, and you don't necessarily have to go to Hawaii or go on a whatever, like a big vacation, but just even like, getting outside in a completely different circumstance or going and seeing family and that kind of stuff, just getting yourself out. And then my biggest thing, and I'm still working on it, is just like getting into a like, all right, evaluate. Okay, this is what happened last year. You had literally had ankle surgery in 2020, full reconstruction. You weren't able to compete. You weren't able to train for an entire 8 weeks before the Olympic trials because you fell, and you were on the bike for 8 weeks straight. You did pretty good. Like now,
Heck yeah.
we have to take all of that in a package and we have to throw it away. And something I'm working with my sports psychologist, I see him again today, is the fact that I think that I'm starting to find a habit though of inviting obstacles in my way, because it's nicer to overcome an obstacle than it is just to fail, if that makes sense. Because
totally.
Oh, I didn't medal at Worlds because I crushed my ankle. Blah, 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 blah. I didn't make the team because I wasn't able to train for 8 weeks. It's like no. Now moving forward, we're gonna put ourselves in the potential to fail. No outs. We're not giving ourselves any outs. We're giving ourselves only success opportunities. And so that's what I'm working on now. And hopefully I'll let you know when I figure out how to do it.
I love that. It's a constant process. It's a constant reevaluation process. I think that's so good. Okay, so we're running out of time here. So we'll wrap up with end of podcast questions. What is something professionally or personally you would like to do that you haven't done yet?
I think that there's two things. Professionally, I am excited. I do think that eventually I could see myself being, running my own company, and I think that that'd be really amazing. And personally, I mean, I think being a mom is going to be is something I'm really excited for. I'm the youngest of 5. I have 12 nieces and nephews, and I'm obsessed with all of them. So, I think that's going to be exciting as well.
Do any of them live close to you?
No,
that's hard.
They're all in Idaho. So,
are you the last sibling without kids?
Yes, I'm the 5, and everyone has kids. Yes.
What kind of company do you want to run?
I think it's going to be really multifaceted, but for me, at the end, hopefully it's going to be at the beginning of Q2 or maybe the end of Q1. I'm actually coming out with, I talked about all of those tools. I actually have, I'm working on a program where I'm sharing every tool that I've ever learned in my 15 years of track and field from all of my sports psychologists, from my coaches from all over the world, and from my own personal learnings, and how I've overcome my anxieties, how I stay mentally prepared, and how I increase motivation when motivation doesn't seem to be anywhere near.
That's so awesome. That's great. What's the best, most recent book you've read?
So a lot of my stuff is really like very self-helpy. I'm not really a fiction kind of a person. But The New Toughness Training for Sports is a really good book, by James E. Lohr. It just helps with, mental toughness and, puts a lot of good perspectives in there.
And then who is someone fun, motivating, or inspiring that you would like to have a coffee, tea, or cocktail with?
I mean, probably, I would say Steve Carell.
I love it.
I think he is so unreal funny. Like, everything he does, I wish, like, I think my dream job, if I could, like, go back, would be to be, like, on the set of The Office, like, listening to everybody just, like, ad-lib everything and just, like, losing my mind laughing.
So good.
But I think, like, in everything he does, he's just so funny. And I think just, like, even being a fly on the wall in one of his real, actual conversations would just be so hilarious.
So have you seen The Morning Show?
Yes.
Isn't that crazy that he plays that character?
Yes, and he kills it.
He kills it. He kills it.
So incredible.
Yeah. I listened to BJ Novak on Armchair Expert podcast, and that was a really good one. Have you listened to that?
Mm-mm.
It was just fun to hear, like, kind of the behind the scenes office stuff and how BJ Novak got, like, he was Ryan, the temp in the office. Yeah. And also I learned that this is so random. BJ Novak and Jim Krasinski went to high school together.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What are the odds? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Aren't they, like, co-producers, though?
I don't know how it all worked out. He explains it in the podcast, but it's definitely random. Like, BJ was, like, always the theater kid in high school. Like, that was, like, his life. Jim was not. And then, like, him and Jim met up at the bar, were, like, at the same bar one night. And Jim was like, yeah, I'm getting into acting. And BJ Novak's like, of course you are, like, the cool kid. And, like, he's going to, like, and then he ends up being, like, really one of the stars of the show. It's way better when he explains it, but...
That's awesome. No, I love The Office. I've seen every episode like 18 times.
Yeah, it's so good. It's one of those shows that it's like, if you just need to be, just put an episode on.
Oh yeah, you don't even need to listen. Just have it on in the background.
Yep.
It's the best.
Okay, Chari, what is your last message to leave with our audience today?
I think the biggest message, honestly, is to just honestly believe in yourself. Don't worry about anybody else's times. Don't worry about anybody else's successes. Like, think about you and, like, continue to believe in your success. And you can use other people's success to inspire you. Absolutely. Absolutely, you should do that. But continue to believe that you can do it. I think self-belief is, like, 90% of everything. Truly. I really do. So... That's like always my biggest piece of advice. And I always, say when people are like, what do I do if I'm feeling doubtful? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of like exercises you can do, but like the overall goal of your life is to just like truly believe in yourself. Like, everybody just like take a second and just internalize you and what your potential is, not what anybody else's potential is, not what you want your potential to be, but what your actual true potential is. And think like, are you somebody who reaches your potential? And I think every single person listening would be like, yeah, I've reached my own potential, of course. Well, now go off of that and believe that you can reach your potential.
Write the email, do the workout, do whatever you like are thinking about doing. Go do it.
Yep, you got it.
Oh, thank you so much, Chari.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for being here today. Thank you, Chari, for sharing your story. You are an inspiration. Friends, if you aren't already following Chari, you can find her _Chari Hawkins on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram as well. I am Lindsay Hine 626 over there. This podcast is part of the Sandy Boy Productions podcast network. So go give Sandy Boy Productions a follow as well, and check out our new website, sandyboyproductions.com. I do have a podcast for parents if you are a parent or, you're just interested in that kind of stuff. It's called Why Is Everyone Yelling? Something I say all the time, every day. And that's why we named it that, because it's very loud in my home. And we talk to everyday parents as well as experts. A lot of great conversations. Really have some episodes coming out that I'm really excited about and would love to share with you over there. So that's called, again, Why Is Everyone Yelling? Hey, if you're not a parent, but you like this show and you know a parent that might like that show, send them over. Let them know about it. That would be a huge help because I'm trying to grow that show just like this show. So anyway, thanks for being here. We have some great guests coming on the show. Molly Grable, Steve Magnus, Hayden Hawks, Robbie Andrews. And then we also have a Patreon episode coming up soon with Sarah Canny. So those community feel type episodes on Patreon are coming back around. Patreon.com/Lindsay Hine for those. You get a monthly episode with my husband Glenn and I. And then we're coming back around to friend, community, and past guest episodes once a month over there as well. All right, friends. Well, have a great Friday, a wonderful rest of your weekend, and as always, I'll see you next Friday.